Welcome to Street Cred Manager. I've had the question asked quite a bit lately. What is it that I'm about? What is the organization about? What is it that we do? How do we contribute? What do we stand for? There are three main areas that we can actually influence organizations in. And this is where Street Cred Manager comes in. We focus on turning around culture, teams, and organizations. I'll give you a really good example of how it works. In the Australian Financial Review today, in November, there was talk of how the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, or ASIC, was going to insert psychologists or behavioral psychologists into board meetings in about 20 blue chip companies. A report came out today in the newspaper stating the fact that corporate culture is broken. Now, how do you know that a culture is broken? There are a couple of signs that come into play. And this is where we come in. And I'll explain that a little bit further. But what are those signs that cause a breakdown in culture within organizations? Firstly, there's poor internal communication. There's micromanagement or constant scrutiny of staff. They keep moving their KPIs and KPAs around just to make sure the numbers look good. There's hyper competition. Competition is good, but hyper competition is when one person's beating the other one up in order to get ahead, be the boss's best mate, or get promoted. There are bad habits, and that's from the fruit to the root, from the CEO down to the teams. There's a huge focus on profit. Now, profit is good. I'm not saying profit is bad, but when there's a single-minded focus on just profit, culture will die in the process because there is no purpose that this organization can say they're existing for. All right, we're making this much money. What if tomorrow it's not money, and what if it's Bitcoin? So now you don't have enough money, now you want Bitcoin. But your people have no purpose. It's a difference between whether your people have to come to work or want to come to work. Big difference. Another sign of detrimental cultures is gossip. Internal gossip. There's a lot of talk. It's very detrimental to atmosphere. It's very detrimental to that positive atmosphere that people use and leverage off one another to actually project the values of the organization. Employee engagement is really low. And all around, there's a lack of empathy. If anything, it does not create any proper relationships at all. A place that's lacking empathy means that everyone's out there for themselves. They know that no one's got their back, and they're all in it for one person, and the only person is themselves. What do? We basically come in and we assess your culture. We have a look at your culture and we say, does your culture actually meet your values? Do your values live up to what a true organization should be? I'll give you a really good example, a solid example to go off. IKEA. IKEA came off this idea of, we're going to create something completely different. But they didn't know what it was, and they were making furniture in the time. And while they were making furniture, one of their employees in the loading docks had trouble loading a table into his car. What did he do? He took the legs apart, and the table fit in perfectly. Now, if the culture of that organization was never to say anything, then the first thing that would happen is he'd have gone home, fixed the furniture, come back, life would have gone on completely normal. But because the culture allowed them and gave everybody a vested interest in the organization, it allowed them to come back. And he came back and he told his manager went up the chain. It went up the chain all the way until that insight that happened there created something different. IKEA was born. Self-assembly was born. That's how it works. That's what we promote. That's what we work towards. That's what we create completely differently from every other organization that calls themselves a consultancy. Teams, what do? We turn teams around. How? By listening. by showing your leaders how to use empathetic styles in order to engage your people better, creating awareness of the fact that what they're currently doing does not work, does not bring their people along, does not create growth. The other thing, foresight. We use foresight to see exactly what's going to happen in the next 6 months if it continues this way. Because you can have all your morning teas that you want. If your people aren't engaged, it's going to be a cake and a coffee for them, nothing more. They're not going to take anything out of it. They're not going to grow out of it. You're not going to grow, because the essential thing that we always say is this. If your employees are winning, then you as an organization, you as a manager, you as a corporate figure, you're winning. And until and when that happens, there's no winning that happens. There's just a lot of grinding with no actual smarts behind it. Teams and culture. We work with organizations in teams and culture to turn the entire organization around. That is what we work towards. We are here to create the mindset in an employee that they have something to give every day. I give a second example. 4 Seasons. This is how 4 Seasons operate. They give the training to their staff. They give the tools to their staff. And then they tell them one thing. Your job as a staff member is to go out there and make sure our customers are happy no matter what you have to do. As long as it's ethical, you're not hurting anybody, go out there and make them happy. And what do? They rise to the occasion every single time. Yeah, that's what they do. And the reality is, when you have every staff member thinking like that, what you create then is known as culture. That is true culture. That's when every single person takes ownership for every single call, every single email, letter, whatever you might call it. They are now in a position where they are moving forward and bringing your company forward. The environment that we're advocating for is one that's collaborative, supportive, and inclusive. And the way it works in an environment like that is that the top person knows what the bottom person's doing. Not by looking over their shoulder, but by knowing that they're giving the right attitudes out. Attitude is everything. You want your staff members to think a particular way, say a particular thing, and actually talk a particular way about your product or your business. Now, you can teach them to be parrots and do that, and that'll work, but the consumer's going to pick up on that. They already know when the phone call comes in, this is just a parrot talking back to me. The answer is going to be again and again. I might as well be talking to a machine. What you want is thinking staff members. Vested interest. It comes from in here. The ability for a human being to rise above and say that why I'm there, there's a purpose why I'm at work, and that purpose is going beyond what I'm doing. We educate corporate culture in people. Policies are great. They're written up by the most brilliant minds out there. But if your team members have a belief that what they're doing makes a difference every day, then what you have essentially is a force. Okay? How do we create corporate culture? And I'm going to finish off with these 3 things. The tone at the top. The tone at the top is of the person who's capable of actually giving that voice to the bottom. It's the way in which they send their message and how they touch every employee out there. That is the tone at the top. And the tone at the top turns around and says, we're going to have so-and-so's measures in place. And if those measures create a non-inclusive environment without any diversity, you can be assured of the fact that people will have their backs against the wall. Make culture a feature. Why not? Make that we always say, what's your values in your organization? What values do you have? What do you live for? That's your culture. Lastly, promote diversity. The more diverse your organization is, the better it is for people to actually turn around and say, I love working there. Word of mouth spreads the idea. Word of mouth spreads your mission, and it gets out there. If you want to know anything more about what Street Cred Manager is about, send us a direct message. We're always happy to discuss over the phone, email. We're on Facebook as well. Please contact us. This is a short introduction, and we're here to collaborate with everyone. Have a great day, and I wish the rest of your day is the best of your day. Take care.